Welcome to this video where I will be making up my reading journal setup for March. I use my reading journal to track my monthly reading progress, books read, how much I read, basically to manage my reading statistics and habits for the month. What I am doing now is getting all the things I will be using for this setup. And now that I'm done with that, let's get started on the setup. The cover page is the same as it was last month. On the left, I have the theme for the month, and on the right, the title for the month. Having 2 pages for the cover page is what I usually do. It gives me enough space to do what I want and keep the setup neat. For lettering, I have bubble letters. I wanted to have more fun looking letters this month compared to last month, where I had cursive. It was nice, but I prefer having lettering like I am doing this month. The theme for this month is clovers. I wanted to have a plant theme, and clovers seemed to me the best choice for March. Rather than just having clovers only, I am drawing out a stamp background. I wanted to have a frame of sorts around the clovers, like I had last month for the strawberries made. Frames are fun to make and gives more structures to my setups in my opinion. I wanted to add that when sketching out, I hadn't planned out the stamp shape and focused more on the drawings. I haven't ever drawn stamps before, and they were fun and easy to draw. Definitely something that I will try to add in another setup. The color palette that I have for this month heavily leans on green tone markers, since that is the color of clovers. Then I have yellow markers for the backgrounds and decoration. I have graph lines and checker boards for decoration to draw attention to the clovers. Checkerboard is a nice touch to the theme. They aren't hard to make and help make the cover page more interesting, the same with graph lines. Next is reading tracker. This is at the start of the setup this time. I wanted to try out a different spread order for my setup. I thought having reading tracker at the start would be for the best because it is a spread that I use the most since I am updating my book progress daily. I actually have read a lot in February, primarily audiobooks though. When I am sketching out or filming my setups, it's very quiet around me, and these setups can take hours sometimes. So I put on an audiobook that I borrowed so I can listen to it while drawing, so I am not just hearing silence and the noises of the markers while I am drawing. It strangely helps me focus on doing my setup while I also listen to an audiobook. I like audiobooks, but I am trying to increase the amount of physical books I read, so hopefully this month I will have more physical books than audiobooks. Coloring in the stamps is nice. I changed to using Micron, I hope I pronounced that right, pens for outlining, which was a good idea because I can color in with any marker without it smudging, which is great. Then in the back I have keys, which is the same as the coloring system I had last month, only that I changed the name. I like having a color coding system for tracking the books I am reading and being able to identify when I read each book. This helps in keeping my reading tracker organized, and I love it. March books is the same as it was last month. I think it works best to have this with my reading tracker so I can keep the books I read organized. Having a smaller page for this is better for me than having a whole page. This doesn't need that much space since I am writing just the books I read this month, the ones I completed, so there isn't a need for a lot of space for this. Then it's book log. It's the same as last month. I am keeping the two logs next to each other, making it easier for me to know where I am in the log. I am continuing to have 3 lines for each book. I like having 3 lines because some books have long titles, and I don't like cutting off the title, which is why I have 3 lines for this, rather than 2. When I have a structured layout like this, where I am using tables or calendars, I have less space for drawing, so I try to find places around the page where I can draw without it overcrowding the pages. I am trying to change up the clovers in each of the stamps. Some of them are bigger, some are wider. I want each one to be unique from the others I have made. For quotes, I just have a blank page. I write out the title and add drawings around the page. Compared to the last spreads, this one I don't have a limited amount of space to work with here. I can draw wherever I want as long as I don't draw too much and distract from what the spread is for. The previous month I had this at the start of my setup, but this month I have it near the end. I wanted to try a different order for my spreads, and I felt that it would work better to have the spreads I would be using the most at the start, and then have these near the end. I've been hearing audiobooks and reading cookbooks, so I haven't written down anything for quotes last month. I am trying to read more physical books this month, so maybe I will use the spread more often this month, hopefully. Book list, which I used to call library list. I changed the name because I didn't really like calling it library list. To me, book list makes more sense because it is the list of books that I want to borrow from the library. Actually, I'm not even really sure of calling it book list, but for the time I am calling it this. I might change the name again next month. Now, this spread has been very helpful in making it easy for me to know what books I want. I am horrible at taking notes on phone. I can type out books I want to borrow, but then I forget I wrote it down in my notes app, or I take a photo of the book I want, but by the time I go to the library, I have a lot of other photos, so it gets lost within all my photos, and it takes me longer to look through my photos than looking through my journal. Having a physical list works the best for me since I have it in my setup, and I remember to check here more often than I would in checking my photo album or my notes app. Now for the table, I have one column for title and author. Then I have a second column called call number. The call number is how I can find the book at the library. I used to have just the title and author, and that would work well unless the book was nonfiction, because nonfiction books go by the Dewey Decimal System, and so there are numbers included in it, not just letters. That is why I started writing down the call number so I can easily locate the books when I go to the library. Overview is the next spread that I am working on. I am not changing anything from the last time. I definitely prefer using tables and bar graphs. They're easier to update since I can do it throughout the month compared to a pie chart that has to make divisions, so I can make that at the end of the month. I don't know if I explained that well. I have been reading more nonfiction books lately, specifically baking or knitting books. I've gotten really into those and trying out new recipes and learning more about different stitches for knitting. My goal for March is to read more physical books because I tend to read more ebooks or audiobooks, which is nice, but I really like holding a book and turning the pages and seeing how far I have gotten in the book. So hopefully I will read more physical formatted books this month. I'm still leaving blank lines for some of these tables that I have here, just because there might be a subgenre that I forgot to write down and I can add it here without a problem. Then in the middle, like always, it's most liked book and least liked book of the month. I keep it simple and pretty small, but I'm thinking I might change how I have this formatted just because sometimes I might not have as much space as I want. In this area, I write down my reasons why I liked the book or disliked it here, and I don't know if I should make it bigger to have more space to write in just in case. So far, it's been working for me like this. Maybe I'll just continue keeping it like this. We're now at the final spread for the setup, and it is reading notes. This is one of my favorite spreads to make in my reading journal setups. I see it as the equivalent of the brain dump spread that I have in my bullet journal. I just write down things having to do with the books I am reading, whether that's my thoughts and opinions on a book or writing down parts of the book that I found interesting for later. Or it's a word that I don't understand, so I write it down so that I can look up the word later and know what it is, what it means. I also use this to write down just how wild the plot can get in a book and my thoughts on that, or how fun the book is to read. Sometimes I read books that are not the best, but they are so fun to read that I have so many thoughts about what is happening that I write it down because I am so intrigued. And this can get very jumbled and very messy, especially when I'm reading while using this because I have thoughts and I'm writing them as quickly as I can so I can get back to the book, so it can get very messy here. Some books have a lot of characters in them to the point that I am reading and then a name appears that I don't remember, which is why I like to use this area to write down characters as well, just so I can remember them later on in the book and not be so confused on who they are. So that's what I use the reading note spread for. It's basically for whatever having to do with notes. I tend to also fill in these 2 pages, which is why I have this at the end of my setup, so I can use the pages after this to write in if I need it for more notes or whatever my thoughts are on books. I had a lot of fun making this setup. I have become obsessed with adding decorations to my setups, like graph grids or checkerboards like I did this time. If you have made it to this point, thank you for watching, and until the next video, goodbye. Also, a goodbye from Blobby, the plushie crocheted that I have with me in my setups. Goodbye.